Good morning. I hope the sound is not too strong. My name is Nora Amin, and I will try to moderate this gathering today under the title of The Embodiments of Dance Transformation. And maybe the title has nothing to do with the content that we will be presenting. We will know as we go. So we thought that with Kuyum Dance platform, it would be good to have a recorded material with the input of artists and speakers, so that we try to build an archive that is recorded and that can have a kind of life in connection to the several editions of the dance platform. So maybe we can go back every year and see how we discussed such topics. So, the first session, I suggested it to be spoken by the artists in relation to their own realities, very different and diverse realities, and how those realities from their societies reflect into their dance. Whether it is the dance vocabulary, whether it is the representation of identity, or the traditions, the wisdoms, and the philosophies they deal with, and how to understand dance in connection to all those histories and roots as well. So it's a chance also to open up after having seen so many performances, to look beyond the performances and to the backgrounds and contexts that emerged, that the performances emerged in them. I will let the speakers introduce themselves, and they are Felix Dompreh, who is the initiator and founder of Kuyum Dance Platform. There is Meier, Yahi, Nestor, Gahe, Dudu, Zile, and Ahmed Sura. And I will step every now and then to create a new round of discussion. So please enjoy.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Ahmed Soura. I'm born in Burkina Faso. I live in Berlin. I'm a dancer, choreographer, and yes, I'm in Flaig in Berlin.
Well, my name is Felix, and I'm also a dancer.
Hi, my name is Dudu Zile, and I was born in Berlin. I'm a dancer, researcher, choreographer. And my background is South African as well as Namibian and German.
So my name is Meier Kakpo. I don't know, forget that. So yeah, I'm from Togo, and I live here in Germany. I'm dancer choreographer, and I have more background from the ballet, contemporary, and hip-hop scene. So yeah, in shortly.
My name is Yahi Nestor, and I come from Ivory Coast, and I live here until now 13 years. And I'm choreographer, dancer, and a dance teacher or pedagogue. And I have a background from modern dance, classic, and I have my own style, what's more from experimental dances inside in contemporary.
All right, then maybe we can start a second round of responses. If you would like to deal with the topics I just suggested. I have seen incredible performances by all of you, and really, really very special and unforgettable from the first edition of Kuyum. I am grateful for this platform that I can see things I cannot see otherwise in Berlin, gathered in one place. So maybe we can start the next round to talk about the connections of your work to your own realities, histories, maybe the wisdom you come from, And I can see the eyes of Dudu shining. So maybe she will help me and become the first speaker about the topic. Thank you, Dudu.
Okay, putting me on the spot. In relationship to my work. The first question was in relationship to my work, right, Nora?
Yes.
Okay. I think my work is very much informed by the history of South Africa, which is a history which is very much linked to my family. Both of my parents were active in the anti-apartheid movement. So I was raised in a home where history, politics, but also culture was always a big topic. And I tried to navigate my own way, finding my own identity, of course also having my European and German background, but also having this connection to my history, as well as also a colonial history as well from my German side. So these are some of the things that I try to process in my practice. I have a background as well in psychology. So my work has been also centered around processes of healing and how the body can actually become this landscape where we can also heal and heal histories, which are not only ourselves, but also those of our ancestors. Because when we go back into our kind of understanding of the body, when I say our, I'm talking about the South African context specifically, and I'm talking even more specifically about the Nguni culture, because we have several cultures in South Africa. And in the Nguni culture, our cosmology is very much connected to the past and the future. And the body, in a way, is a landscape where we can navigate these things, where we can remember, but where we can also dream. We are very much connected to our dreams. Our dreams are very central in our culture. Actually, our culture evolves out of our dreams. And the body becomes a space where the ancestors can remember, they can bring the dreams, and we can continue, and we can also change these dreams. So in my research, I've been doing a lot of research. I'm going more and more actually back into the tradition, because I realize that in a way I have to go back before I can go forward, also in my work to evolve. And some of the things that has been coming up very strongly is this possibility for healing through practice of movement. But that takes patience and repetition. So there's a lot of, there's a different sense of time. There's a different sense of movement as well, and how can I also put this in my artistic work? You know, because I think from a contemporary perspective, especially in the dance scene, in the art scene, especially in Europe, it's amazing. We have so much support, but there's a lot of pressure to produce and to create a product, and it has to be quick. And actually when we go back and we look at how we used to dance, because the function of dance was not primarily to entertain, it was also to entertain, but you know, there's a deeper meaning behind it, and that takes a bit more time, and is not necessarily only about the end product, but it's actually about the journey and the process. So beyond, you know, entertainment, you know, there's topics of social cohesion, social identity, which come up very strong in the dance and the movement. And if you go even deeper, then you get to this place of spirituality and healing. And then the body is a very multidimensional landscape where we can kind of navigate the outer landscape. We communicate with the outer landscape, but in a way that moves us deeper into ourselves. And then we come into this aspect as well of trance. Movement here is a vibration, so it's a frequency. So we are raising our frequency as we are moving, as we are dancing, and we're kind of coming back into this frequency of nature, into a frequency of healing and of medicine. Different movement styles, there are very different movement styles in South Africa. So, and they have different symbolism, different aesthetics. In the Nguni culture, there's a lot of stamping of the feet, which is related to the cosmology of the idea, you know, that our ancestors and our spirits are in the earth, and also the earth is the mother, is the creator. So we connect a lot to waken up the spirits and also to raise our vibrations to the feet. But we have other cultural groups as well, which are more centered maybe around moving the torso and the spine, a lot of shaking and shifting of the torso and the spine. And that is related, for example, to this idea that we have this energy, which is in other cultures they call it Kundalini energy, we call it Umbilini, which is an energy which sits below on your spine, and as you are shaking your body, as you're shaking your shoulders, you are awakening this consciousness to then connect with your ancestors, to continue the dream and to continue, life. We have other communities as well, which are the Abattoir people, which are the Khoisan people, which are considered actually to be some of the most ancient original people who are still living today. And their dances are very strongly as well communicating with nature. They have a lot of dances which are connected to fire, connected to the wind, and they have a lot of practices that very much go into the trancing. So when they dance, they are going into trance and they're healing. So this is some of the spaces. But of course, in a bigger historical picture, I would say, we have a lot of dances that were used as well in the anti-apartheid movement. So we have a lot of political dances as well, the Toi Toi movement, which today is really like this symbolism, and it's also become a form of entertainment. But if you actually go back into the history, when those dances were danced, they were in a very tense situation. They were a part of the revolution, they were part of the protest, and there was a very different energy that was charged in those dances. And if you go even further back, you see that these dances come from the tradition of war. So we would dance a lot in preparation for war. The warriors would dance to prepare for war. And also these dances would then change in different spaces. So you'd have the warriors dancing the war dance in a context of war, which was different. And then let's say after war, they would relax, they would come back home, and they would want to dance for the women, And then the dance would change, the style of dancing would change. So these are some of the things that I have been researching. I'm still learning, I'm a learner, but I'm very curious to learn more, and I'm very curious to see also how that can influence my work. In terms of my own work, I think naturally I had to come to a place where I had to accept, and I'm always in this process of accepting my body the way it wants to move. I had to accept that my body is multi-dimensional, multicultural, and some of the movements, they just move through my body, and I had to welcome that, and I had to identify myself in a space of saying, yes, I am an African contemporary dancer. I am not only a contemporary dancer, but this is how my body wants to move naturally, and I had to actually give permission to that. Instead of maybe following a career, going into contemporary dance, doing what people expect you to do to be a successful dancer in Europe, I had to let go of that at some point and actually just accept my body the way it wants to move. Thank you.
So, the relation to my work is a lot of diversity. Since I'm also in the urban scene with like a lot of competition, have fun on stage. I'm also like in the theater way as performer to some choreographer. And as performer and dancer and choreographer myself. So it's a lot of diversity to my side. But when it's come to create my own piece, I try to combine all the skill I have in the background, like have fun on stage, be there for people, and be at the same time more engaged, have like a lot of engagement, talk about some topics, and because it's not just like come and have fun, but we as dancer, we have also to talk about all what is going on, what is wrong, without judging. We just expose everything on the table, and everybody have to take what he like, what he don't like, and so forth and so more. So, yeah, I will not take the talking a lot. I think I'm gonna stop there for the moment. Yeah.
I find your topic really interesting, and it's opened my mind about too many things. And as you introduce this thing, I'm only going through to not all my works, but especially soliloquy, these works. Because I hear also from many people about this work, for this dimension for this work, but I think it will, soliloquy shows me how I break with what I already embodying and how I am now. We know, and actually we as dancer and choreographer, we always reflect the body. And we know that the body is always, always said it, and get some structure from the system. System means your culture. I come from Ivory Coast, and in Ivory Coast, there are so many ethnic groups, language, and from them I can speak many of them. And when I look back and see how I can speak Malinke, and I speak Bete, and I speak my own language where my body don't have the same movement. It's like the same when I have also to dance all these dance from this region, from culture. This is one. And the second is the area where you grow or where you move and you stay. I grew up in Abidjan, in Metropole. This means global. Global is really diversity. Then you don't have one system. You have too much influences. And from these influences, you have one system, one structure, which is coming from French structure. Then, from my dance education in Ivory Coast, in this university where I study, they're really open to many, many things. You don't do only African dance there, you have also ballet, you have some modern dance, you have also jazz, and like that. This is also the kind of thing what my body was educated. And then I moved to France to study there, and this is other structure. And after in German, in Düsseldorf, this is also other structure what's not similar with the French structure. And all that, when I'm looking back, I can feel now how my body is moving or is feel in this old structure. This is really this education from academy. After this academy, we have also, I work also with choreographer who have their own writing. And they come also from some influences. When you work more than 2 years with the one choreograph, you get his style. you are embodying that. And I am embodying so many work from choreographer and from also a regisseur. Then when I start Soliloque and I look yet now Soliloque, it's like, and that's why I was in this research, I always say to Felix, I don't like to give the name to something like Neo-African dance, but I will look through on it. And we look through on it and I understand what he want to mean. And now it's for me clear too. I can say Soliloque is kind of Neo-African dance, when I can say like that, because the structure for Soliloque was clear for the people who are artists to see that I want to see and say to this system, all this system, what I have, thank you to giving me this, but now it's gone. It's me. That's why the first time when I start to dance, everybody can see all these styles, system, and I say at the end, body. That means at that thing, I break it. What is coming after is me. It's not somebody's style. And I think what is coming after is all these things what my body get, this education, the mixed up, and the understanding to see how you feel when you have really African dance, if we talk, or the African education. Is it the isolation? Is it the grounding? Is it the knowledge between really be fixed on body and the all other dance what I get here for the education from Europe and something like that is to deal with the variation of the dynamic, the time, because my people always say, or my colleague always said, you are, when we said we rehearse at 10, you are always the first one who stay on stage and we come late as Germans. So like that. And I think it's, for me here is this understanding from space and time, how we deal with time. How, as African, I was deal of time with time, and how as European living German, I deal with time. And this kind of mixed up with the understanding of time, you can see this also in my works. And now I'm sure, and everybody know that the dance, the body get the influence from the space or the area where we live. And the topic, what I have with, most, I can say from Soliloque, of my topics in my works, the topics coming from Germany. How we live here, what influence us. And it's like a comparative thing to see what my body has, again, from my, where I was. Because it's about Soliloque, when we see Soliloque, it's about, how we say that, Corona, and how especially we in German deal with Corona. But it's not different how the people are the way deal with with Corona, except Africa, because most of them, there was free. And after that, one of my piece, L movement was deal with laughing. It's come out from Germany, because I will see many persons it's really difficult to laugh. And the contact what I have as live in Stuttgart, what is mean for German, the Schwaben, who can't laugh. I expect this also too, because always the people say, wow, when you laugh, it's so amazing. When you laugh, it's so amazing, they are talking to the African man. And then I see, as a German, when I sit with the people, I have to be correct, cut it. And in that time was for me, how I feel is different. I have to embodiment test, feel that in my body, and then go to the research and to say, okay, as a dancer, how I can, with this laugh, create the new movement and try to put it in the dance. But for sure, it's about physicality, but it's also about politic statement to say laughing is good. But for sure, laughing can be dangerous. We know that. Only when we manipulate it. This was also in this laughing thing, and this myopathy here is about balance. And we know how we are disbalanced now. And we can see these words in something. I think German inspired me a lot. A lot, because German is the same kindly as my country. German is not free. German is in Besitz, how is it? Occupation from USA in all influence in it. And we can, in Russian and so on. And we know how we deal also with all this politics here. And I can feel it in Ivory Coast, how we are occupied from France. And all other influence, and we have to deal with that. And I'm between, and I was traveling between the two to find a way to question myself, my identity, what I am. And to see how I have to move and to talk about the reality, about the topics, what is in our society. And it's also in the German society. It's also reference in the Ivorian society. It's also in the world society. That's why, from sure, my background for my topics are really in German, but it's always topics who was talking also in all of the worlds. It's like that how it works.
Okay, for me, what influenced my dance, I can say directly, is the concept, the topic. For me, the subject is more important than my person. I don't take my personal life on stage. I split it. The subject, and I go with the subject, and then that means for me, when I touch a subject who are in a political situation, I think as an artist, I am the representation of the people who don't have a voice. That I have a chance to be there, to get the mic, and I can defend what is really talking to me. And for me also, as an artist, is important to have a mission. Otherwise, for me, without mission is no art. That's why I think as an artist, we are already in the political situation where we have to defend something. I defend love, I defend peace, I have to defend something. And for me, when I don't feel charged enough to be on stage, I don't create. It's the same thing for me, it's like giving birth. You don't go to the hospital and being at this place with empty stomach. You are going there to give birth. For me, it's the same as an artist. That's why I'm direct. I have to say this. I come, I say it, and I go away. Next person. But what influenced me and bring me even to this dance, this art, is also my own life. My own life, because in the beginning, at 18 years old, I should die. And the only thing whole my life was dance. And this also was support by my father. Because when I was 10 years old, I lost already 4 brothers and sisters, and 11 years my mother died. And then my father had another wife, and she gave birth, and this baby died. And the woman, this wife also died. And my father, when I was 18, he died. But before that, he told me that if I want to keep going to school and I need support from other people, I will not get it. Better that I take my way of dance. Because when he see me dancing, he feel he see how the future I draw, the future by dancing. And he say that nothing could stop me when I'm dancing. That's why he think that I should hold on this. But this is one thing, but in the reality, as an African, I think always I have to give back to my parent when I'm older. And then when I look, I don't have nobody to give back. I feel like, why to stay here? Why to leave? And then I think about, okay, then if I leave and I do dance as a work, I have to do it because I have something to say. I have to do it because the only thing who hold my life is dance. That means I could exclude everybody, only dance. That means for me, I never hold, nothing can hold me like human, because human can go away from me. Death could take them, everything could take them, but not dance. And this is part of me. That's why I am shy to love someone, because I will lose this person. I will be disappointed. But dance will never disappoint me. As soon as I am on stage, I am with my concept, nothing. I feel like this kind of mission of being on stage, defending something, it makes sense to keep living. And that's why I am dancing to bring, to have some topic who is talking to me now that I have to express it. And for me, steps is not my thing. Steps I don't like. And that's why I thought about 2 things. When we are doing a duet, we have to talk about the same movement, and we have to think about what are we going to say. And for me, when I see the intention and the movement, I say I take away the movement, I keep the intention. Because if I say to people, doesn't matter, are you a dancer or not dancer, let's break this glass and get out, everybody go with the engagement to break the glass, and we are all going to get out. And for me, this is more powerful and real, and sometimes the surrealism, I like it because it's showing also how, as a human, we do some stuff that we even don't recognize, like when we look back, that wow, we have achieved this till here. But this you could not imagine before. And it's happened to me several times. And I even took some challenges that I know that probably the whole stage will be empty. As when I was at the Philharmonie Berlin, I have to play Messias as a Black Jesus at Christmas time. Everybody know that could be problematic. But the director decided to take me as a soloist to take part of this. But for me, as a child in my village, when I listen to this music, hallelujah, 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 I would never imagine that I will be in the white country, white people singing this real song for me, alone at the Philharmonie, full house. I could not imagine. That's why if I could tell this to my parents, they will say, are you stupid? It's surrealism. Huh? This is surreal. But when it's happened in 2018, there after the first chapter, people did not go away. I stand up, I went out, and big applause. And the director said, wow, we win it. And for me, this is more important than my person, and people could shout on me and do everything, but I accept to assume it. Because everybody's thinking, yeah, he could be brown, Jesus, he could be black, he could be, but not white, but who? But the history, someone trick it like this. Probably for commercial, the red Christmas color from Coca-Cola, everybody know, but it's probably commercial. That's why he's white. But we don't know. But I try to put the story as is it. Sometimes we have to assume it. And that's why I like to take this kind of position. As in German also, when I work with Christoph Winkler, I saw why Germans are reading books to have the feeling of having hunger, to play hunger. But the guys who is coming, foreigners, they have lived that. They know what is this. Why you don't give them the Hauptrolle? And then I did a solo piece called Hauptrolle, where I played the main role. And I think we have to play, we have the right to play the first role in the subject who is talking, where they need a real soul, like soul, not like overplay of white person to show that, oh, this is no hunger, I'm dying of. Here, water for free. Everybody can drink water everywhere. But we are in the country, we are coming from country where is really no water. Even in the capital, in Ouagadougou, sometimes we have a problem with water. We can't get water. And for me, these people live this, and they come to the moment where they can express themselves on stage, and they think, no, it's good to give it to the white guy. He come from academy. He have written a lot of books. He can express it. And that's why I like to put myself in the engagement somewhere where I also bring my people with me. I don't think about Burkina, but I think about the whole people who get this kind of discrimination. I have the privilege to be there. I defend it. And this is what inspires me all the time, is also the balance of the society. How, when I was here, I was counting until 1 million and so, and I said, huh? It's a lot. And some people get this. Why the person don't give 1,000 euros to everybody? And then we don't have any poor guy. And then I was always thinking like, why someone can get like million and some, no, nothing. Poor person should not exist in our life. And for me, we still have some topic to talk about it. And that's why I think dance is, for me, even dance that I'm doing, I say, dance is a very complete art in the planet. And I defend it. Dance is the place where they are generous with the other artists. They can include singer, they can include actor, they can include painter, they can include musician. Dance is the only art who don't exclude the others. But you have the singer can sit and talk, ba 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 ba, and go away. People come and listen, that's it. But the dance can involve the other art form. That's why I like this kind of generosity of dance, who is made by movement, if we understand it like this, but it could be also by identity. Identity, me as a black guy, when they see me, they think, okay, he's going to do a folk dance for us. And I say, no. Folk dance, I even learned it so late. I start with break dance pop because I had also TV in Burkina Faso. You don't have, it's not only in Europe that they have TV. We have also TV. You get influenced by Michael Jackson. We also get influenced by Michael Jackson. I grew up with Michael, and then in my case, I was in prison. And I found dance in prison. Because every weekend, my uncle was locking me inside a room and putting a movie and getting away for a party. Because I was 7 years old. He could not take me with him. And then he locked me inside. I banged the windows. I want to get out. I cry, and then I sleep. The next morning, I wake up in my room. But he's doing this all the time, every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, until I saw in one American movie, one guy was doing break dance, and they are partying in the circle. I said, oh, cool. And then I started learning, but we did not have a next step of dance. I had only the movie with the VHS CD. Then I could put it in reverse. And then I could put it in slow motion. And then I saw, oh, the whole movie people are moving and they are dancing, they are doing this. And, okay, I start dancing the movie. Because it was too short to rehearse every day. And every Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, I was dancing the whole movie. Forward and backward. Because he has to be complicated, and I was working with a so complicated thing. How they run and the slow motion, I learned all of this. When I was from 7 years to 10 years. And 10 years, I didn't know, because I was by myself, copying and doing. No teacher. And then, 10 years old, for the birthday party, they say, oh, dance competition, children go up. And then I asked my uncle, can I go? Stop here, you never go out. What are you going to do there on stage? And then friends told me, no, it's the children, let them go and enjoy. And then I went on stage, and then they put the music, and I start doing Smith and moonwalk and all. And then people stopped. I didn't know that this could have an effect to the audience. People like, whoa, he's a great dancer. Mr. Sura, your son is amazing. I said, what? And then they are giving me money and all. And my uncle was pissed. He did not support me. He said, no, he have a work. He's not getting me there to earn money. We have enough to live. Why? I am doing this as a homeless person. He said, no dance. And he did not support me until he saw my first trip to France in 2006, where he started believing on what I am doing. But the influence also is this. The society don't believe where we are going as a dancer until you arrive somewhere. They start recognizing you. And I saw that in the whole process, I have to improve that to be accepted. Thank you.
Oh, but that was powerful. Thank you. So, I grew up in Ghana, actually. And as I said earlier, growing up in Ghana, there's a lot of influence, and there's a lot of dances that either you participate in the dance gathering, or you learn in academy. Growing up, I grew up in an artistic family where my mom used to sing. She dances as well. My dad as well. So I actually grew up, seeing dance around me everywhere. But I never thought of being a dancer or being a choreographer or a researcher even until I had to go to high school. And by then, my mom said I should stay like a year and then after go to the high school because the school I wanted to go is full. But I was like, okay, I really want to be in the batch of my colleagues because I don't want to go later. And then when I go, they are even ahead of me. I want to really be part of them. But it wasn't possible, so I stayed. And then later on, because as I said, I was exposed to dance. Later on, I just joined a dance school called Noyam Dance Academy, where I was exposed to all the traditional dances in Ghana, because we have like 11 regions, and each regions we have traditional dances from there. And when you are able to learn all these dances, then if there is a tour, you'll be part of it. So you have to be like really good. And when I say traditional dance, they are new traditional dances. So they are not really dances that are not amended, but they are dances that are amended. So you learn and then you go on tour. So I wasn't exposed to making all those decisions for myself, but then I was told to learn and then get the results of going on tour. So, and even said that, most of the dances in Ghana are very much preserved, extremely preserved. And Dr. Kwame Nkrumah being the first president of Ghana and also opening the first dance school in Ghana, in the University of Ghana, in the Department of African Studies. That is where then you learn the traditional dances and also do a couple of researches about it. But then it actually stops there, you know. It doesn't go further because the people are keen on just preserving it. So if you want to improve or you want to move further, you need to be able to maybe join private dance companies or or travel to a neighboring country and then be able to do that there. So being in Noyam, I learned all this, and then later on Noyam, we begin to introduce the contemporary dance. These contemporary dances are also influenced by our traditional dances. So we take from the traditional dance, taking from the old and working with it and amending it and, you know, and then use it in the creative process. And all this while I was thinking, okay, well, this is actually not for me personally, because it's something that was laid down that I had to do and with condition. And without doing that, you cannot be able to even economically make money for yourself. So then after Noyam, I was like, okay, then what can I do? Because I have all this movement archive in my body. How can I unpack this myself? How can I move beyond that? So that is when I begin to go for residencies, try to travel to places alone to be able to do that. And when I come back to Noyam, it's just different because I've moved from where I was before to a different place. And then many times when I try to talk to my colleagues about it, they were like, but this is what we are taught to do. This is the dance itself. What you're doing is just doing something. And also just that in Ghana, most of the events that happens, you need to really like move. You need to really dance your head out. If you're not dancing, then you are not dancing. Like you are more like, just go home and sleep. You really have to move. You really have to dance. So I remember an occasion where I was invited to perform as a solo. When I went there, performed my dance, finished, the person who invited me came to the backstage and asked, "Did you dance?" I said, "Yes, I did. But this is not the dance I used to see all around." And I was like, "Well, this is my dance. This is what I performed for you, and it is my dance. So, well, I danced." And then he was like, "Okay, well, most of your colleagues, they've been dancing, they've been jumping, they've been doing all the flip, they've been doing all the tricks in dance, and you came and you just did this, and you took the money." I'm like, "Yes, I danced. What do you think I did on the stage?" So these are the things, you know, you have to deal with. And then came into the commercialization, you know, sector, whereby there is very limited research in dance. Many of my colleagues there are used to dancing in dance videos and music videos to make money. And they don't have any other choices than just to be in a music video. Therefore, researching into your own practice, trying to discover things is limited because you are more focusing on surviving than to researching on your craft or on your dance. I created my first piece, and what I did was just to work with people outside Ghana, and I did a conscious decision to do that. And most of the people that I worked with, one is coming from Togo. I worked with a friend from Mali, and then one from Nigeria, and then from South Africa. Why did I did that? I did that because I wanted to see the impact from all these countries, what they have to contribute to what I want to portray at that moment. And then my former director then asked, but we have dancers here in Ghana, and he chose to invite people from different countries to come and create a piece with you together. And I explained to him, and he was like, but they can do the same dance like the other people. I'm like, no, what I wanted is not what they are producing here, because I really want to move out of this system, because it's more like a laid down system whereby you have to fit in to even survive. And I really want to change this path and move to a path that I wanted to go, where I want to go. And he was like, okay, well, then do your residency, but I'm not going to support that. You're on your own. So I wrote a proposal, sent it to Institut Français. Within a month, I got a yes from there, and then created a piece. And I invited him. I gave him a VIP seat to sit right in front of me, of the stage. So we performed, and he was the first person to come backstage to congratulate me for doing that. Because then he was like, but how did you do it? How do you know these people? Where did you meet them? I'm like, nee, because I want to expand myself, I went to places, and all these places I went to, I met these people. And that's why I wanted to show this, that there is possibility of expansion. There is room for improvement. There are ways to research into our dances. And this is what I want us to do here, basically. So still until now, there is still challenges in expansion. There is still challenges in Ghana in just exploring our traditional dances, or exploring, really like unpacking them. Many of the dances that I see myself are very pantomimic way. And I don't see themselves challenging themselves much. I don't see them really like forcing to be able to break this yoke, to go to a place where we haven't been or haven't seen before. And this brought me to then a place where I just work with people that I feel they could challenge my artistry. People that I think they could move me to a place I haven't been before, artistically. And so that's how I'm able to navigate myself through. And then, ACT, going to school in ACT, I found myself also then in ACT after a residency in Vienna, in Postans. And then from there, I wanted to research on my own practice. And then that's where I then begin to research on my practice. And I remember that there are a lot of things we do in Africa which involves a lot of movement. Even the way we walk, the way we cook, the way we sit, everything involves movement a lot. So then my focus was to focus on the movement aspect of customary behavior, which is the everyday gestures and gestures and movements of everyday life. And then I shift into labor. And when we call labor, what do we consider labor? What is labor for you as an individual? Do we see work as labor or as pleasure? Do we see work as labor, or do we see work as more like economical gain for your self-satisfaction? How do we see labor? When I look back in Ghana, you see the fishermen fishing, singing a song alongside, pulling the net, singing a song alongside. You see like a mother grinding pepper or grinding millet and then singing alongside, and they are enjoying what they are doing. Do we consider that labor, or do we consider that work? What is the difference between work and then labor? In the German context, when we say labor, it's really like physical work, like really like being physical. So then, and in where I'm from, work is then being singing and still cooking and still doing your stuff, going to fetch water and doing your stuff. It's also part of work, but then there is pleasure in it because you are enjoying it. So I focused on that aspect of work and pleasure, because you don't just work for nothing. You work to gain something, and not for money, but for your pleasure and for your self-satisfaction. And then I questioned then now, when I look back in Ghana, and with colonialism, what is the post-colonial labor now in Ghana? How do they do the labor now? Is it automated or is it manual? And what are the effects of automated labor and what are the effects of manual labor? And I focus on manual labor because then there is a lot of movement. There is ways I can transform all these movement gestures and patterns into a movement that I can work with in my piece. And well, my piece also focused on a lot about social political stuff, and Depot that you saw in Kuyum Festival focused mainly and primarily on the Krobo land in the eastern part of Ghana, where a lot of political issues were involved in this practice. A lot of stigma also attached to it, and it's just an initiation for female. And the female take pride in doing this. They enjoy going through this process. But at the same time also, if they have to question it, are they doing it for themselves or they are doing it because society demands them to do it? Are they doing it for themselves in the way of them being clad in their costumes and present the dance and then pass through this process, or they are just doing it because they are peer pressuring also, and there's a family pressure around it. So my work is entirely, those social political subjects I find dearly, and I find very important to share. And I feel like I want to use my work as a catalyst for social change and for social consciousness, basically. Thank you.
So thank you all for this amazing input and for sharing your knowledge and journeys. And I'm very happy that all this is recorded, so it will stay. And I could see already connections between what you all said, like the connection between the playing, the celebration, the healing also in relation between Dudu and Ahmed, the idea of a mission, and also the idea of accompanying socio-political change, the layers of traditional dance and physical experience within the body, and the prints of choreographic work being printed on the solo body, and how you can find your own autonomy later. And it's time now for questions. I don't know if we have from the online audience, if there is online audience or not, if we have questions there. Maybe we will know from Lola and also from the great people joining us here, also our speakers for the next session. Please, if you want to exchange, comment, respond, ask a question, it's a free space and I will not moderate it.
Yeah. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. I thank you guys a lot. It's very interesting. It's also like connecting to me a lot, my own experiences. And I just wanted to point out a few things that I just picked up along the way. This reality thing he was thinking about is very interesting. It's also very dangerous. And I'm talking about something has nothing to do with dance, but there's a photographer, James Nachtbij. He's a war photographer, and he once made a picture about an African child crawling to a bottle of water, but the army said he could not help this child, because otherwise they would shoot him. Then he had to make a decision, a reality decision. Shall I help? Shall I give my own life away, or shall I take this picture? And he was like, he took the picture. He took the picture of this child crawling to the bottle of water and on the way dying. And people really attacked him. You know, he had a lot of people like, why didn't you? And he said he had to make the picture to make the world understand what reality, you know, what it really means. If you see like what you say like with water, but he had to live with it, you know. Putting out this picture in the world and make people realize he didn't want to take the picture. Can you imagine? Because if you have a camera, it's even more concentrated, more focused. And it's true, it's a difficult topic, but a very interesting one. And a lot of people don't want to be confronted with it. Because coming back to this folkloristic kind of dance, I love the sentence you said, to welcome movement to your body. A lot of people tend to forget this. That's why they stay on the outside and they don't go into the inside. And if you confront people with this, even in a performance, they start to get aggressive. Because after the response is, why did you do this to us? I didn't do anything, I was just performing. Because I did in the beginning 90s, I did with a black Afro-American dancer who was a ballet dancer. He went more into folkloristic African dance. He visited the Ganawa. He went to a Coptic church in Ethiopia. And the first piece we did was called Ararai. Ararai means great voice. And the monks, they sing this in this Coptic church in the desert. It's built in a cross. And they only sing it in special occasions. And they have to learn it for years. And it's 3 choirs, like Gregorian choirs. They are like in 3 rooms with walls, and they sing to each other like waves. And they also have to write their own Bible in Ges. Ges is the old Ethiopian language. So we did this performance on this Ararai Mass, and it was about 3.5 hours in Amsterdam. And people started to go crazy because there was no break. And that was on purpose because it was like kind of a meditational thing. It had nothing to do with dance. It's like, you know, together with the audience, you go on a trip. And some people just left the room, but very loud to make clear, like, we don't like this. This has nothing to do with theater or dance. And he really had to defend himself, Stephen Daniels. And I always ask him, why did you step away from ballet? Because you were trained in the Joffrey Ballet. You were trained in the New York City Ballet. He said, there's one thing, Robert, because I got tired of these stupid stories. And second of all, he said, I'm always playing the bad guy because I'm black. I'm the devil, I'm the bad guy. He said, why? Why can't I have other roles? Because you fit. I said, I don't want to fit. I'm an artist, I want to develop. And that's how he gave up ballet. And that was a very important step for me, because for me, I had 3 Afro-American people in Holland that helped me, because I'm originally from Holland. Was Mr. White, who was Catherine Dunham trained. Then I had Michael Matthews, a director, who gave me speech on stage, which I'm very, very, very grateful to, because I was just, and he did a trilogy, it was called the Monster Trilogy. It was about Idi Amin, Uganda, it was about Pol Pot, and I forgot, Baby Doc. And I did audition for him because a black dancer from America said, a woman said, Robert, I think it would be something for you. I said, I don't know, I never did theater, I just danced. No, just go. So I went to the audition and said, can you sing a bit with the opera singer? I said, do I have to? Yes, I want to hear your voice. Okay. So after the day I enjoyed a lot. We did a lot of different topics. And then he called me immediately in the evening, I'm going to take you. And he sent me the libretto. I went to the libretto and I was like, what the fuck? There is a solo text from me in this about torture methods. Is wet torture, dry torture? Because that's what they did in Uganda. Wet torture was in a bucket, dry torture was a plastic bag. I said, my God, I called him and he said, I'm not going to do this, I never did. He said, learn the text. We have 2 hours before the normal rehearsal and I'm going to show you how you're going to use the text in different ways. But, he said, you have to be honest, it's very important. And second of all, you have to go with emotion, meaning you learn your text, but you always, like you said, you connect with the audience. You look at the audience, you build a communication, even if the text is the same, but it has to be different. I like, so, and then he put it like a commercial spot. I come on stage, I'm very funny with this doll and with a bucket of water. But people start to see like, yeah, it's funny, but it's also something that really happened, you know? So they didn't know, like, they were on and off, you know? And he really loved this. And the critics I got, they were very good. I was really surprised. And one critic said, it's such a good thing that he's putting these things on stage, not in an abstract way, but in a reality way, like this is it, and punching people in the face, you know? Because this is what really happened in the 70s, and the whole world knew it. Because they invited Idi Amin in Scotland, in Queen Elizabeth, and they just looked away from what happened in Uganda, like killing the tribes that were not his tribe, you know? Killing people that were intellectuals because they were dangerous to Idi Amin, because he wasn't an intellectual himself. So he was afraid of them, and then ruining his own country. And the same happened to me, what you say with the Black Jesus. I played Hamlet, and I was just auditioning for the theater company, the independent theater company, and they gave me the role of Claudius. I'm like, Shakespeare? Yes, we want you, because we want to make a difference. That's how we started in the 70s. We went away from the normal kind of theater, and we were always a difficult topic in Holland, because we don't make normal theater, and we don't want to make normal theater, and they make multidisciplinary theater with opera singers, like you said, but it was always coming from dance, like you said. So they invited opera singers, they invited actors, they invited even musicians, but only musicians that make their own instruments, according to the performance. He was live on stage, and he built his own instrument. That was very important for them. The sad thing nowadays in Holland is that these things, they want to get rid of them. Because this company stayed there for 40 years, and now they don't have funding. They had their own rehearsal space. They were doing a lot of things with countries in Africa and around the world, with youth. And they just don't want this. They want this kind of commercial bullshit. I'm very sorry to say this about my own country, but they do. They just are a money-making machine, like a little America. And that's horrible, you know, that people don't want to think about. And artists in Holland are now parasites. They don't want them anymore. Why are you doing this? You know, we just want to have stuff that we can just digest, and we feel good about it. We just had the pandemic. We don't want to have confrontation. They don't understand, with confrontations you grow, you know? And the same thing, I really connect to you, because that's how I learned dance. Also like VHS. Those 3 Afro-Americans made me realize you're discriminated. No, I was very naive. Like, no, Robert. You really discriminate. And they sent me to one Mr. Felix White, and he trained me for 3 years. Personal training. He made my first solo. The same with my father, because I was studying medical biology. And I don't feel happy in these studies. I want to move. I was sitting behind my desk, I want to move. And then, sorry, yeah, I will make it to end. I'm getting into it. I'm sorry. But then, I will finish. So then my father saw my first solo, and he was the only one crying afterwards. He came backstage, and he understood why I don't want to study anymore. You know, that's people can sometimes only with seeing things or seeing things really happening on stage, then they start to believe in it, you know? If there's a whole audience, it's a theater, this official thing, this form. And if not, they just attack you. So that's it. Sorry, Ricardo.
Guys, just a question for all of you, just something about so personal matters that I think that's important for all of us. Just a little things about love. I think that we are talking about a lot of matters, that this environment that we are. I'm curious to hear it a little bit. If you could just give me some word about love for us today. Just to bring you back the voice.
Okay, some words about love. Wow. Well, I think what we are doing here is full of love, basically. What we are doing in Kuyum is full of love. I could still see the love each and every day during this 5 days period from the artists themselves. Sometimes they even go to each other's workshop to support them and give them moral support and moral love to be able to go through the process. And also, this platform is also based on love, because without love, I think we cannot be able to even function normal, or even probably think normal. They will become machines, because then we don't have any sense of feelings. And I think here, what's happening here is the main objective or the motive is centered on love. So we can probably say artistic love in a way. Yes, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, when I hear love, for me, the first thing will come in my head is know yourself. If you know yourself, you know what you can bring to the society, what you are able to do, what you are not, what is your limit, and what you can, So, since the platform, the Kuyum platform also know exactly his own objective and know, okay, with this objective, if you want to attend it, we need these guys. This is what bring all the multicultural, the plurality in all we are doing here. So we work first on ourselves, to know more about ourselves, to know after what we can bring also to the society. So I think,
Love. I think it's a really important question when we are artists, when we are dancer. Sorry, I keep the word. Love is, in our work, acceptance. And I work with my own works, I work with harmony. Harmony means I take the dancer as they am and what they can give to me and try to build something together. And we know when we work, we always get something at the end of our works. And is this know each other. We come together, we don't know each other, and we come out after 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, with so many know each other and falling is in love. Because this experience, we did it together as Felix and Kuyum start the research Kuyum collaborative. We don't know all each other except Ahmed with me, like that. We don't work together, but we know each other. And we come 2 weeks online, we discuss. Each person has his own position. It was hard, it was conflict, that is also love. But when we find each all in the same space, then we try to deal with the position and come together and know to respect the engagement, the position for each person. And after 2 weeks, these works were, you saw yesterday when we was there, is not only these works, but it's only what we take from each person and we feel connecting. This is love. And this we try to do all in our works because we not work alone, we work with everybody. That means we deal how to be together. And to be together means you have to deal. And this is love.
But you've been waiting to say something. Love. I think just to offer something to all the beautiful sharings, I think for me in my work, I do it out of love, I do it out of passion. And love for me, I think, is really also this journey of healing. And it's specifically, I think, more maybe on stage, but also in my classes and when I teach, when I offer workshops, I center it around a process of healing. I work with engaging people to really find themselves in their body, to really come home to their bodies, to accept everything and to see their life as a journey, as material that they can use to be creative and express themselves. And usually, and then in that journey, in that end, there's those beautiful moments where you have these little gifts that come to you, where you really fall in love with yourself. You fall in love also with the community, with the dancing community. And you really feel this connection, you know, because the body is really moving and connecting us. So you become like this channel of love. Yes.
Okay, love. First of all, I like always to define on stage the word that I heard in English, love. For me, in my mother language, I translate it there before I express it. That means I did not learn to love someone with a perfect attitude. No. To love someone is to be with the person and learn to know each other. This is love in my language. That's why some girls can be already, already your husband, your man, before you grow up. Because they want you to stay in the situation where you become, you get your confidence, you know well each other, that you can live together. For me, then, this process of love is not a metaphor like now we have to love each other, but we have to learn to know each other, to be together for 70, 100 years. Yes, for me, this is love. Love is the process to be together. And then love in our work, for me, is also the acceptation and also dealing with the compromise. Because I can't be with you if I want to stay in my own comfort of how I want, like, no, I have coming from Philharmonie, I have dancing with a ballet de Lausanne, why I will dance on the stage here outside. You know, that means I don't love these people. I have to learn to be with them, that we can recreate a beautiful and lovely space. And this is what, for me, Kuyum is offering. The platform to learn to know each other and being together for the next 100 years.
So thank you all for this great session. It was very nourishing. And thank you for making it also so early after a lot of performances and late nights in Kuyum. And I think one big applause you deserve before we go to the next session. Thank you. And in 5 minutes from now, we will start the second session. So see you soon. Welcome to the second session of our Embodiments of Dance Transformation. And with this session now, we try to look out to the future. So after also trying to examine the roots, the socio-political realities, the journeys of the artists, and how all this is reflected into their performances and their concept of the dancing body, now we try to move forward to create a bridge between the previous talk and towards a kind of envisioning of the future of dance as a liberated form. Also looking at empowerment, at progressive movements for dance and critical discourse, looking at the hierarchies and the discrimination that also affect the forms and the content and their transformation and growth. How can dance be a form of resistance, of solidarity and transformation? And how can we also look at the economic dynamics of the dance field? How can we look at the research, the training, the performance, the production from a critical point of view? Thank you. So to embrace the diversity and to keep the journey moving on in a positive way beyond blockages. So I invite my lovely speakers for this session to maybe introduce themselves briefly in the way they wish. And then we will make another round where we will hear their inputs one after the other and without interference from my side.
So my name is Sandra Noeth. I'm not a dancer, but I've been with dance in dance for basically all my life. I'm a dramaturg. I'm teaching, let's say, social and political context related to dance.
Hello, my name is Raphael Hillebrand. I'm a choreographer, dancer, and activist. I was born in Hong Kong in 1982. On my father's side, I'm from Mali. We are Kasonke. On my mother's side, I'm from the region of Berlin. And I grew up here in Berlin, studied at the HZT. I was the first hip-hop dancer or choreographer who's made a master's in choreography here, and later on I was honored by the German Dance Award and also the first hip-hop dancer who got into that position. So I'm kind of at the intersection of tokenism and really changing something. And with these words, I'm giving the mic to the lovely Christa.
My name is Christa Flaig Isaacs. I'm a dancer, dance teacher, manager, organizer, curator, and I think activist is also a good word for all the things I'm doing. In the arts, it's for myself, my art is based on African dance, and all the curating I'm doing in a contemporary dance center here in Berlin, where I try to and do all the diversity I can find as part of the whole program and as necessity I find.
So I'm Ricardo de Paula. I'm Brazilian and I'm an artistic director from Grupo 8 that is based in Berlin for a while. And basically, I'm dancing choreographer, performing choreographer.
I think now we can start the round of inputs, and please don't feel restricted by my introduction, by the topics I stated. And I'm sure you can really go deep into that and beyond it, much beyond it. So let's maybe start with Sandra. Thank you so much.
Yeah, first I'd like to thank Nora, Felix, and really all of the team of the Kuyum dance platform. There's not so many occasions. I mean, there's lots of things going on in Berlin, but not so many occasions to speak in that kind of context. I was actually very happy that the first panel started with practitioners, with dancers' experiences and contexts, because all of this conference that Nora put together is about how does dance knowledge circulate, how does it basically carry ideas, and of course we know that it circulates, and we heard about this by movements and gestures and all of these kind of things. And we also heard a lot about that there is always an individual project or let's say impulse or love story whatsoever, but there's always a collective, community or whatsoever imagined or real that is there. So I'm also happy to look at this through practice, because basically I think a lot of dances, I mean, Felix said in the Ghana situation that dance is quite well preserved, like regional dances and so on, but I guess very often it is actually not, because embodied knowledge has been really disacknowledged. And this is a question of colonialism, but not only. I mean, it's a question of giving more value or different value to books, archives, written artifacts, and so on. So I guess only now we try to reconnect to the knowledge that is really carried in the bodies, and in particular in the African context. But again, also not only. I think many dances are also passed on from body to body, and also in particular in contexts that are not, where they are not labeled as contemporary dance or labeled as art. So let's say celebrations. We heard from Dudu about healing contexts. We heard from sports, maybe dance that is developed in the street. So also how to include and how to capture that knowledge that is in these kind of forms. So that's really interesting. Nora brought the question of embodiment, and which basically, in a very basic way to me, means that we acknowledge that there is meaning that is created between bodies, like when we meet, and that is negotiated also between bodies. I mean, let's put it very simple. And I do think it's interesting, this idea of embodiment, because different times collapse. We also heard about that in the first panel, like relations to ancestors, like ideas moving into the future, utopias, and so on. But also different spaces kind of merge and come together. So embodiment is interesting from that side, and many artists, but also, let's say, psychology, studies, different fields have looked at this. What I would like to point out, maybe also as a question to my colleagues here, that I think what is interesting if we speak about embodiment, that there is a kind of, I don't want to say controversial, but there is a kind of a flip side to it. So I guess we have, we can very quickly think about how embodiment, like the connection between bodies through movement, through affect, through emotions that are created. We heard about singing in the first panel, how this can really be a gesture of empowerment, not something that kind of creates collectivity, that makes us move together, that makes us stand up. Some of you before said about, having a voice and insisting on having it. So there's all of this. Solidarity actions, protests, civil movements, and we heard in first panel about anti-apartheid. We also heard about preparation for war through dancing. So, the context, the ideologies can be very, very different. But I guess there is something else also that we should not forget, and here I'm speaking also from a German context, but again, there's many examples, that embodiment has often fallen prey and been misused, to kind of install ideologies between people. I just remind us that this idea that some bodies are more authentic, more natural, more powerful than other bodies. So really where through common movement, through collective kind of gestures and postures, also a lot of really, really problematic political and social things have been implemented. So I just don't want us to be only optimistic about the idea of embodiment, but also remember that creating collective affect through movement can also really cater causes and contexts that are really very dangerous. Concretely, I'm thinking today about obviously right-wing movements, which Germany has a long history with, as we all know, but everything that basically is also discriminating against bodies. So it's still very present. And I'm sorry for that little bit more problematic thing, but I guess. So what I also was thinking about a lot in my own work is about how in the bodies, and also this we heard about, I think you spoke very intensely about how our bodies are constructed by the context and the situations that we live in. And it also means that embodiment is not a linear or coherent or predictable thing. It's not like I hand over something to you and you continue and so on, but there is conflict in it, there's transformation in it. And I guess when I'm looking at situation in Berlin, at very different migration movements that have always been part of this city, of this place, and today are again changing the landscape, we can see this very, very directly, so that there is people who chose to be here, who have a, like, let's say, large degree of decision making. There is other people whose being here and coming here and working in art is very much conditioned by hardship, by forced migration and many other things. But all of those people contribute to what Berlin is very proud of, kind of an internationalism and a diversity of the scene. And still, I would like to bring the question, is it really that we welcome all bodies in the art scene? And now I'm not speaking generally, I'm speaking about us being part of a, let's say, dance and performance scene. Is it really that we welcome all bodies in an equal way? Is it really that we protect and support all bodies in an equal way? And how maybe we can start looking about hierarchies that are embodied, about privileges that are embodied. And I'm not only talking about the big kind of context like colonialism and so on, I'm really talking about what do we do like in an everyday level. So there, we heard a little bit in the previous panel about hierarchies between different dance forms. So for example, what we call contemporary dance. I think Raphael can tell us a lot about hip-hop, urban dance, when getting into tokenism. And I think it was most brilliant formulation actually that you found. But also I'm thinking about clubs, about street dance, about folklore dance, and so on. So even here we start, no? We don't have same attention to all of these things. I just want to bring a couple of points for the further discussion where I think us in the dance field, we can have a look at our practices and at the hierarchies and privileges. So obviously there is a social and political dimension which communities are welcomed, which are less welcomed or supported, economy, resources, spaces. We will talk about this later. Part of my practice is curating, so I'm thinking constantly about this trap that I think I don't have a solution for, so whose concerns are at the centers, really, like am I inviting you, but basically asking you to accept my concerns? Or how can we, in the first panel someone said, how can we appear in our own right, no, in our own terms? So how to navigate that kind of thing. How to really engage in something that, let's say, learning, no? While being very aware that obviously I'm stereotyping, there's a lot of cliches circulating. So, you know, not just pretending I'm out of this, but seeing how to work with this. And in particular, like if we think about African dance, and Alfred was also talking about this, I guess we are right in the topic. Very concretely, I guess all of us, we know that in parallel or in response to what happens on a geopolitical level or on a social level, we have a lot of residency and grant programs that, you know, shift folky depending on different waves of migration. So there was a lot of programs after 2015 trying to support Arab artists. Now the focus shifted again, and let's not be too simple. It's not about is this good and bad, but I think we also need to keep in mind that support is linked to a certain economic and social political kind of movement. And like me being also a scholar and a researcher, I'm also thinking about concepts. So yes, the most one that has been the most critically reviewed is the idea of contemporary. So what is this? We heard a lot in the first panel about actually how times and temporalities cross, no? How we get out of this linear future, past, scenario into something that the body basically culminates, that is much more complex and in transformation and generative. But I'm also thinking about that basically now in the decolonial efforts that happen in academia, for example, in a very, very weird way, and it's a much more complex discussion. We basically discover ideas that have been oppressed by the very same academia. So, you know, also just to be a little bit aware of the movements that we are happening, and to end maybe just to say the dominance of English, which is something that we take for granted for good reasons, but which also, of course, carries a certain idea. So basically my question to you is how to and I'm using big words just as a provocation, how to work towards something equal without equalizing experiences, without equalizing bodies. And what I found very important in the first panel, that the bodies that all of you spoke about were bodies that were not closed, no? They were not bound entities, but they were bodies in transformation and generation, and they were also bodies in conflict. And when I'm saying conflict or crisis, I'm not meaning this as a negative thing. I'm meaning this as a movement that works towards and through things. So sorry for shifting the scale of the conversation a little bit, but I'm eager to hear from you.
I think answering your question for equality or how can we get to a more equal status, I'm more interested in balanced, because I think it's not so equal somehow carries also this notion of being the same, and it doesn't need to be, but we need to find balance, which means to me a healthy connection and a healthy relationship. And I think one of the biggest problems of our time is the imbalance between male power and female power, the imbalance between white power and black power, the imbalance between capitalism and human rights. You know, these I think are the things that lead us quite quick to seeing, it's not about treating everybody equal, but it's actually about supporting the suppressed. And in how to get there, I think this is my 15 minutes, right? So I gonna start first of all with an analysis. Thank you so much for opening this broad horizon and also for inspiring me with some of the words. And I come back to my biography to go to my analysis and then the proposal of action. Being born in a former British colony, I was born in Hong Kong at the time, it was a British colony, and then I came to Berlin being 3 years old and was raised here as a black German citizen in a society that was saying about itself that skin color and race doesn't matter and that they all don't see it. And by now we have statistics and facts about that this was a lie and it was not true and it's not working, and somehow my lived experiences also prove to that, and also a lot of my art kind of spoke to that fact. And I think an interesting thing about us as migrants being in Europe, working in the arts and coming back to this Eurocentric context where we just see certain imbalances and lies that other people who lived in Europe all their life or are part of the dominant group in society don't see. And I sometimes call us the conscious, das gute Gewissen of Europe, because we are, or the discourses in many cases, caught up in Eurocentrism, in neocolonialism, in liberalism, and they cannot see the solutions because they don't see themselves. And I think this is what makes this situation here also so interesting, because we have a mix of people with migrant backgrounds and non-migrant backgrounds, but I think the ones with the non-migrant backgrounds, they got their revelatory moment where they're like, wow, a lot of things they're saying here and that were taught to me in school, they just simply not true. When they were saying Germany didn't profit from colonialism, and when they still, oh my God, last week, a 55-year-old friend of my mother, high in society, said this straight out. Like, it's not like France and Britain, and he says this and nobody starts laughing at the table, you know? It's like as if I say the world is flat, you know? And and people, they still say things like this, and they still able to be in positions of power in the society, being so naive or straight out dumb. And I think that a big part of the moment that we are in is getting out of this Eurocentrism. And I think some part of it is language. And we were talking about the word contemporary, and I think it's incredible how the white academic dance made it to conquer the word contemporary. Yeah, it's like as if I would say all dance in the world, and I just mean by that my style. All dance, I could now call it, yeah? And it's just the style of me personally that I taught my students. And everybody keeps on using this word. contemporary dance is sturdy. Like if we go to TikTok now, the most watched videos, it's sturdy, it's hip hop, it's voguing. It's not academic white dance that slowly lets other people come in, yes? And I crossed that out of my, when I say contemporary dance, I mean all dance that happens today. And when I say postmodern dance, then I mean white academic dance that happens in very closed encounters of maybe 0.2% of the society still consider that dance. Most of the people would consider that performance or something that has nothing to do with the relationship of music and body. So I think maybe, and I don't want to judge people who, or attack them even, who use a word like this. I just, for myself, I try to get out of it because there's so much power in that discourse. And I think we can use language to be much more precise and actually disguise or find out and reveal these contradictions that keep us bound to the past. Another word that I heard today, and I'm using it myself in order to be understood, is the notion of African dance, and I'm just trying to remind myself, whenever would I use the notion of European dance? You know, I never talk about European dance, and if I would, most people would not know what I mean. Does he mean flamenco, or does he mean this, or does he mean the pretzels, or is he talking about ballet, or about Irish folk dance? It's a huge variety, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there are more people on the African continent than in Europe, and there's more dances on the African continent than in Europe. So the variety is at least as high, and we should try to get words that are more precise, because I think we will find them if we talk about contemporary African dance or traditional African dance, folklore, hip-hop African dance, or things that more reflect what we actually mean. So I come to my proposal, and Nora also asked me to talk about activism, and a few years ago I got to the point where I realized that doing art is not enough to take the responsibility that I put on myself, or that I put on my grandparents or other people that I judge, and I say, what did you do when Hitler was in power, you know? And I think, like, if they would tell me, yeah, I did dance performances, I'm like, yeah, it's good, you know, but I think it's not enough, you know? And when my kid's gonna ask me, what did you do when 10,000s of people were drowning in the Mediterranean? I gonna tell them I did dance performances, but I also tried to use the political power that I have due to the citizenship and the passport that I'm carrying, and to the privilege of being raised here and belonging to some kind of academic discourse. And in that analysis a few years ago, I was like, especially through traveling, I realized, wow, we got some privileges here that we don't have in other places. Like my friends in Vietnam, if they want to get into political discourse, there's one party that they have to join to get on the ballot or to be active. It's not like that in Germany. In Germany, we can organize quite freely, and we can say straight out, I don't want to be part of the system. We can say straight up, I don't want to be a liberal, I don't want to use this money, I want us to be more important than the money and the profit. And it's not forbidden. In most other countries, you would go to jail for that. So I realized also that Holocaust and Nazi Germany was only possible because half of the society was part of the silent minority that didn't speak up, even though they didn't agree. So being part of that silent minority, silence is violence, you have to organize, otherwise you not agreeing doesn't matter. It's like supporting. So I informed myself of how could we build a structure and do things, and I found out you can start a party, a political party, and it's quite easy in the start of starting it and being protected. Like if the people in this room, if in the next 30 minutes we would agree that we are a political party, we would be a political party. Like this is the kind of how easy it gets, and it's almost impossible to say that we are illegal except we really push it far and we are not smart in saying things between the lines. And with this building a structure and collecting money in order to build revolutionary force, in order to also take responsibility and work on how can we manage power, because it's no solution to just say, I don't want power, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Just from making dance choreographies and productions, I know hierarchies are necessary for a certain kind of organizing or for a certain kind of productivity and not wasting time. It's not working if we're all just a collective with all the same things. We have to find ways how to organize power. So I think it's 6 years ago we started Die Urbane, a hip-hop party, a political party based on the positive values of hip-hop. And for me, hip-hop in that context is stand-in for African diaspora, for blackness, for non-Eurocentrism, for switching the perspective from the center of society to the margins of the society that we have here that are actually representing the majority of the globe. And from there, wow, we put a lot of sweat and blood and tears into that. We organized protests, we took part in 3 elections. We are like a few hundred members, 600-700 members, and we don't have the full solution, but we are up onto our nose in the mud of trying hard. I'm slowly pulling myself out and being the leader of the construct or of the organization, because I don't want to become a politician, and I think it's very good if we change leadership every 5 years and not be stuck in clinging to a person. But I think it's very important to still be part of it, to support it, and to find the positive aspects of combining art and politics, because politics are ugly and I'm not passionate about it, but it's something we have to do. It's like washing our hands. And to combine that with art, it really can free the art of this, oh, what am I going to do today? Am I going to do a piece about handstands? Or about how do I feel when I turn? It's the kind of pieces that I'm not interested in seeing when there are homeless people on the street and when everybody of us is carrying trauma that we really would love to speak about or to deal with. Yeah, and so I think that there's a lot of things to come out from this combination of art and politics. And like Orville said, all art is politic, because if you make art that is trying not to be political, you are making art that is distracting from the things that are important to be said. So you are part of the propaganda machine that is advertising the status quo. With that, I'm very happy and thankful for you listening to me, and I give it back to you, or I pass it on. You're very welcome to go to Die Urbane and press on Mitglied werden. You can join the party. You don't have to have a German nationality to be a member. You are invited to pay €2.50 or more, as much as you want per month. But you can also write an email of, I need my money for other things, and you get a free membership for as long as you need it. And so there's little excuse, except you have in your analysis, you have something that we see wrong, then please add it and bring it to the discussion so we can get better. And in that sense, I say there's one solution, which is revolution.
Thank you. I will not continue with the revolution. No, I go completely to another point where it starts by me. And that is, I use again the expression of African dance, because that is how it was introduced here in Berlin, in Europe, when I started dancing, and that was 40 years ago. And just that you know, in those times, this was the respectful way of talking about it. If you said about Afro, when I came into Tanzfabrik, I said, can you throw out all those expressions of Afro? It's not respectful, it is African dance. That's how the dancers from Africa with whom I worked called it, so that was the way. We are 40 years later, but for now, when I'm talking now, I use it, and meaning even talking maybe at some points about comparison of from Africa and from Europe or the Western style. Yeah, and starting is really now about myself, and maybe that is what at the end also is called embodiment. I started dancing very late for a dancer. I was nearly 30, and I came to dance through Oriental dance, in those times what called belly dance, baladi, and then further on to African dance. And I only can say the first class of African dance, to say it touched me is much too little. It was my innerst inner which was touched, and it never got lost. It's that, and that is what I call love. And up from that point, actually, I changed my complete life. My profession, I had another profession, and there was in the time I knew dance is much more important. It's for me, and for a while, I only could do my work if I danced for 2 hours before going to work, and then I decided, okay, you have to change your profession. That's how I came into dance. And that I stay now with this word love, yeah, or this passion was always the basic for me about all what I did. And in the dancing myself, in teaching dance, and then later on, or at the same time, also the organizing, yeah. And I want to tell you a bit about my own dancing, because I want to connect to what you said. You are teaching laughing, yeah. And actually what happened to me, and I learned a lot, and I think the most I learned is what I discovered, what is different from what I learned from the African dances, different from my European, German culture. And actually my work around dance was all the time the research, not the research on the dances I got taught, but the research on what it makes with me and how to adapt. First it's adapt and transform, yeah. And the first thing when I discovered this is, it was my first one of my first dance classes with Mama Dompreh from Senegal, and he showed Sabah. And I remember I came home and I sat down and I knew, now you have to decide. These movements are against my taboos. And I have to decide, either I want to keep on dancing and I have to leave my culture in the way to that I'm not living the taboos, or the taboos are so strong that I cannot go on dancing. And it was really, really a decision. And you heard already the decision was taken for the dance, yeah. And it opened up my life, yeah. And from the taboos, I came to the spiritual life and the religious life. And I learned so much what can be different from the European, I call it now, from the Christian religion, yeah. And the biggest thing I can learn is, I know there are at least 2 different ways. So if I look further, there may be 3, and I can decide I got the freedom. I still can live the taboos, but I have the freedom to decide. And in all my teaching, this was basic, to teach, to look at yourself, to research in yourself, to find out what it is. And then we might be able to do the movement, and it might be kind of the same or not, but something is done. And for me, this is then, I think it's also the respect I owe. If not, it's copying. Copying is also nice, but it's not the same and it's not my way. Yeah. And further on, I think you all talked already about it. It's, oops, we leave it down. It's a daily life. Yeah. One of my teachers were the children in the streets and the women in the market. There was one. I was in Ivory Coast, and I got taught one dance, and there was one movement I could try and try and try. And it was just not possible. I just couldn't do it. And the children, the moment they saw me, they came and made it. And I made, but it was not. And then one day I went onto the market and sat down, and I just watched. And then I watched all the women's. And after some hours, then I realized it's what we call as a technique, it's alignment. If you carry something on your head, and then you bend and you start to move your feet, then the neck goes like this. But if you don't have that notion that that the energy is going up, you don't get it. Yeah, deep appreciation to learn this. And also this, what I discovered, is connected to what you, Dudu, also said, to the religion. Yeah? In the Christian religion, we focus towards heaven and everything is going up. Look at ballet. The best is if you are not even anymore on the ground. And in what I learned from the African dancers is if you are grounded, the Kontakt zum Boden, if you are grounded, and the ground is where we come from. It's where the ancestors are. If you're grounded, you get something from the ground. If you really feel there are the ancestors, they can give me an answer. They can give me something, and I'm more than I don't know what's the word. Yeah, I really experienced, and I want to share this with you because for me it's one of the most important things to how to go on. For me, it's not starting with solidarity. It's not starting with political action. Solidarity comes after, when I realize it's not respected. Your work, my work. Then we have to find solidarity towards it other. But first of all, it's our work. Yeah. And I took just the same in my organizing, curating. Actually, I started like, I wanted that the teachers, the dancers with whom I work, that they come to Berlin. So I said, if you would want to come to Berlin, I could organize a workshop for you. That's how I came in workshop organizing. And then I came to Tanzfabrik and got the whole program in the real, full Western European, German contemporary dancing. And since then, I also say a bit, I struggled myself through, yeah. Always with my feet, trying to have my feet on the ground, working with my love, and saying, if I want to have a program, my program for teaching, to give something to other people, the world is so rich, so how can I only have only one, what did you say, contemporary Western 2%? Yeah. That is not possible for me. And that's then how I kept on going to say it's always, for me, it needs to be in the program. If not, for me, the program is not good enough. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And from there for today, I mean, the question is how to go on here in this context. And I watched the performances throughout the days here and tried to take it into that thinking. And you heard that I'm talking about the spiritual, religious, and also the ancestors. I'm working with that also in my work in Tanzfabrik and out of Tanzfabrik. And when I watched the performances this week, there's so much suffering and pain, injustice, subjects which have to get tackled. A part of how are we going on in this surrounding, how are we going on in this society. And I just want to say my vision what came, and I saw a number of performances where the ritual was part of it. And the subject of healing, and I think the subject of healing is very important. And somehow, I don't know how, and there has to be a lot of agreement, but maybe we can, one day, it can be, maybe Kuyum Arts would be the right way to have a festival where the whole festival is a ritual. That means your performances are part of it, and that performances go further. Everybody is part of the ritual. I know there needs a guidance for ritual and all that. I mean, it's just one idea how to do it, needs some, but to go on to find healing, Dudu said she's working on it. I know you are working on it, and the bigger it needs the society to heal. And maybe then, because that was my idea before I was sitting and watching, I thought all that colonial, racist exclusion and those things, how can we keep it just stay where it is? To say it very small, too bad, too sad, but your problem is not my problem. We have a power, and when I listened to you 5 people here, there was such a power. There was no fight against the injustice. There was the power of I do this, and if it's going on with I do this, and I really want to say Kuyum Arts is maybe the only platform, one of the only platforms where it really happens that other judgment is not in. You all know what I'm talking about, yeah? And I saw it in when there was a showing in February from the, you know what I'm talking, yeah? I saw in your bodies that outside judgment was not in, that white contemporary dance scene judgment was not in your bodies. And that is what is important, and that is what is needed. And that's, I would bring in here for how we, as one notion, how to go on.
Language. Yeah, I go to start with this because for me it's so difficult to speak. I don't like to speak. The words many times put me out because even the possibility to express love in an environment full of violence, structural violence. We are talking about structural racism. Is the differences and the way to bring us together on this atmosphere. Raphael brings some stuff so nice. This trying to organize, to put us together and to create our own path inside of this complex structure that's German. I'm talking about German because we are here, but these things go beyond. I think that we are talking about one possibility to decolonize our mind, and then all of our concept of doing what we're doing here. You know, how to think, how, for example, I'm gonna talk about my work, how I'm gonna name it, you know. How I really carry this name, Ricardo de Paula or Orialo, or anyway. I go a little bit more dark in our reality that's so cruel for all of these things that you are passing by. And this repetition of this discourse that many times you are trying to put in words, that there is not words. And I even it's able to look at myself inside of the society, first of all. Be in this migrated backgrounds, being Brazilian, what this you see what does language mean, how to name it. How to name a presence of all of us here in this room. And then how to define the love that I feel for all of you, be around this context of the things that we are proposed to do here, the differences. Using this colonized language, that's not my mother tongue. And then also being aware that mistake is gonna happen. And the definition of the new African dance or colonial or contemporary dance or this is also words. And then how we name it, all of it. I'm bringing this out because somehow I'm trying to do this organizing people, bring people together. And then I feel how difficult it is to bring more people of color together out of the context for the financial structural reasons. You know, and then somehow we put the most of time, we are in our survivor modes that which one of us take your bag, I'm survivor, now I'm choreographer, now I'm this. It's all of about it, but then also the environment that we are doesn't allow us to be together. That's the difficult things when you are dealing with this structural that tend to be so racist that they are not aware of it. And then this violence that somehow there is a huge complexity, make all of us walk alone the most of time. Kuyum, it's a grace to it happen. I'm trying to do my own. It's a challenge. It's a systemically challenge. Because when you talk about language, corporal language also, there is one complexity today that somehow, what define what you do? You know, but how to define, for example, this place that we create to be together today. That somehow one day conference, for example, just one concrete real situation. Where to go with it? When we start something, the thing is done. They find something in 50 minutes. I'm so sorry, I'm going away of it. It's impossible. It's impossible. But then somehow to decolonize all of this process, we are aware that somehow we tend just to follow what is there. I have in mind many times what is not there. And then how to do it. It's kind of easy, for example, Raphael give a good, nice example, to create one apartheid. You know, it's here it's possible, you know. Here it's possible to do this and that and that and that. But I don't know how it's haven't been doing. I need to go on it to figure out. But people, just for you to know that the history bring a lot of trauma and then discomfort for this Afro diaspora, that somehow is so difficult to exchange without say that your silence will not protect you. I use this a lot in the performance that we did, the present body, because I think that somehow it's racism is not a matter of us, African diaspora. No, this is the colonizer problem. And then it's impossible for me to come here and then talk about even about me as a person. I cannot. It's so little in front of these things that's still there to be done. And I'm really so critical for all of these two things that I'm doing, that somehow I think that's the artist things, that we are never happy with the things that we are doing. It's always something that somehow, puff, is not there. And then on the first block, I put the question for the guys about love, because for me it's so important to survive loving on this violence structure. And then the continuation, the persistence of doing, and then the resilience to all the time adapt ourselves for these things that somehow, unfortunately, is killing us physically, mentally, and in many different ways. That I have many questions and doubts. What is our future as a society? And these social constructions that is there is not work anymore. And then seeing for the dance perspective, that's the thing that we are here dealing with. And then I'm dealing with an collective that tend to be more white members today on the group weight. And then when they try to really engage more people of color, how many conflict that this came. And then I being the head of this collective, that somehow it's a really a huge bags to carry, you know, because you have a lot of questions about who can say what, who cannot say what. You know, as okay, you are white, you cannot say that. You are black, you can say that, you know, but you. And then also being here in the festival, okay, look at, now we have people of color on the public. How to achieve them in this perspective? Because my work is all the time I ask this structure that's still around. So why a lot of silence about this? This difference. It's impossible that all of you is blind. You know, why? Yeah, and then I say that the silence does not protect you. And then doesn't protect us either, but then also how we speak it up in relation of it. Because not anymore about to do it or not to do it, but about to speak up, the way to speak up, who can speak up, who cannot speak up. And then this is the question today. And then in that way, when I call the attention for this presence of these bodies on the rooms, for example, that became something, look at, I was yesterday, for example, in Tansnart. And then making part of this Kuyum festival we see the difference of all of this structure. And then all of us fight for, guess what? Money. You know how tricky it is? Is not money there, have money there, but it's not enough. Here, there is not money, but what we have, we still surviving. And then I think in this, on this confusion mind that I have, and then I'd like to share with you, I still with that, because somehow, as I say, I cannot talk about dance, I cannot talk about myself. I'm just open things, because somehow it's this revolution that Raphael brought is something that somehow it's a part of the process that we are doing also, but then also how bring people together, how, you know. On my practice, normally, I start to touch. I start touching, you know. I start to touch this. And then the consistency of these bodies that we touch, it's so soft. When you go to the us, and when I say us, I'm talking about the diaspora. The consistency of the body physically, poof, it's almost historically. You know, we can come with your somatic perspective to see the tones of one white body and the black body. Man, this is a study that I'm doing for a while, that day by day, oof, it's scaring me. How the consistency, what can I say, the tones of the body it is, the difference of the body it is. You didn't realize that that's a point, that's one of the points we didn't. That's the stuff that I start to do for a while, because we tend to have a lot of tension on the body, unconsciously. You know, unconsciously, you know. Exactly, because out there, there's a social structure target you in one way that's so aggressive, that somehow this white control that you have always, all the time, you have no idea what it is to must behave all the time, to have not the freedom to have your own freedom to. This is the thing that is still on these dance scenes, that we need to put kind of one white mask to be accepted on this context that we are fight for find it. And yeah, I stay for here, otherwise I go on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I want to take your permission that I start with a kind of response, or if it's okay with you. Because we have almost 15 minutes. I want to try to be quick. But somehow I feel the idea of creating a political party, I'm one of the audience now. So somehow has the idea of action, of revolution, which is not separated from healing, because usually we think that the political action is something and the healing is something. I'm just thinking out loud the impact of what I heard from you. And then the idea of creating ritual. And how to gather the people and how to touch each other. And I feel somehow that there is maybe a whole possible scope of different actions and approaches that can complement each other, that can be political action, healing spaces, and outdoor rituals. And I just also name it, your work, The Present Body, as a ritual. A performance that is also political, close to a protest, which is not far from the activism, but still it's an embodiment of resistance and retrieving the memory of trauma in the body, but also shaking the stability of the pedagogy of silence. And I just get in my mind that this word pedagogy is so much missing. Pedagogy, the education, but pedagogy for me feels bigger, like the overall transfer of knowledge, and how this is so much connected to Nestor, working with laughing. Why we have physical and emotional attitudes that restrict our power, our individual power, but they also restrict and create blockages for us to connect. So there is a pedagogy of division, of blockages between the mind and the body and the emotion and the soul, and a pedagogy of separation between the one human and the other. And I think it's also the pedagogy of oppression, because oppression and power work on separation, because the full holistic power in the person and the full human bonding will reverse the status quo and will create huge problems for governance and ruling and privilege and economic interests. And just to listen to you and to be reminded again that dance and the body has in itself a wisdom, a natural wisdom of connectivity and balance. And that if we have a liberated consciousness, which is really hard work, I don't know if we can reach it in 100 years, but maybe with this liberated consciousness, we can reach the wisdom of the body, of balance, of the justice within the system of the body that I only discovered when I got semi-paralysis. I discovered what justice means in the body. Then we can learn from it, from the body, from the dance, a kind of justice for the society, for the balance of society, for the justice in society. And for me, dance can be a leader of change. And it can be a kind of key to a gate that can lead to social change. So I remember just quickly now how theater of the oppressed and the legislative theater in Portugal established performances within the parliament and could change laws. And it's true. So maybe here there is a possibility for our future to make something that connects all those factors and really moves forward. And not to treat the dance as separate from the pedagogy, but dance that can unlock and go beyond the restrictions to find a new land. Sorry if I talk too long. Yes, Sandra, please.
No, that was super. I just want to say something basically to my colleagues. I relaxed while listening to you, and I can tell you why, because I got very nervous about the rhetorics of change and revolution and these big words. And this is like, we talk from the same, that I used as well. And I am much more at ease with, not at ease, but much more really believing in kind of a logic of contribution, no? Where we bring different things, where it's smaller scales. Maybe it's temporary. I can do this now, and then maybe in a year I can do that, and so on. So I have something really about this. And I was thinking what you said about language, because other than what it might appear in this scenario, I don't come from language. And my problem is not so much speaking or not speaking. And in the previous panel, we heard about how different languages produce different bodies, which is something that I guess I recognize so well, no? Like even here speaking in English to you, which is not my mother tongue, you know, creating some weird tensions that might not be there in French or German or whatsoever. But I think the question is, when we speak, do we really want to speak to someone? Do I really want to speak to you, no? Or am I speaking for whatever reason, no? Power, economy, just because it's a way of being present and so on. So, you know, I think that is the point for me. And in the previous panel, Felix talked about how his research went into the movements of the everyday, not the small stuff, like how you walk through streets, and you brought it back actually now. And I'm thinking, for me, this is really also language, no? It's a movement. It's how can I be here and there and so on. I really wanted to say it. And lastly, because what you brought was very important, I think that there is always this call, no? Call for action, call for attitude. And we talk a lot about empathy and so on. But maybe we can start with having sympathy for each other, no? For someone who is not from our group, presumably, no? And maybe not already try to think that we can understand, because you're right, I have no idea how this feels, walking here, like from your perspective, I don't know. But you know, maybe we can start somewhere where we can really meet, and not, an attitude not to forget, yes, it's a political term, it's an ethical term, but it's a corporal term, no? It starts really, really in the body. And it costs nothing to stand next to someone who is aggressed in the tube or so. I mean, just to remind of these everyday things. So sorry to move it a big as well, but I really wanted to tell you this. Because you can say a lot, and then you can be there and really want to listen, and you really made me want to listen, which is beautiful, no?
Thank you, Sandra. I don't think that my political actions or the organization, the Urbano, will be the solution. It's would be very naive, and it's. I think it's one step and it's one try, like all of us try with the dance, the analyzation, the dance company, all kinds of structures we built. What I learned, and I would like to share, is that it's not working when we just try to change the outside. In all groups I work, where you have more than one person who's just doing action to the outside, it crumbles. You need to do one action to the outside and one action to the inside of reflecting what have you done, how did the other feel, what's the consequence of this, oh yeah, this, and then you can come back and do something meaningful again. Otherwise, usually you just do and do and do, and you build as much as you destroy. That's at least one truth that I go with, and how I try to be in a panel or try to build stuff or be in a group. Often, I think we put this big weight on our shoulders trying to build a fair or perfect world. And I don't think this world is supposed to be fair or made to be fair. It's would be very arrogant that after thousands of years now we finally make it to build a structure where it's like, I think we are here to get better and to grow and to try. And there's a responsibility in that. We need to find a balance between really taking on the things that are in front of us, but also not crumbling under this weight of perfection and creating a fair and perfect world that we will probably never reach. For me lately, when I try to recharge or find peace or love or a perfect place, I go more inward. When I'm looking for challenges, I go outward because they always come. When you go inward, it's much easier to connect to ancestors, to love, to breath, to the dance, and I think it's a lot of matter of choice of for what do I have the strength today? Do I have the strength to wake up and sit in the park and appreciate the beauty of the trees? Or do I have the strength to go to a protest? Is it really in me? Can I fight a system that is bigger than all of us? And some days we are bigger than life, and we can go there and we can do things that would have never thought. I really want to thank you, Christa, for my deceased grandmother's name was Christa, and you remind me so much of her, and she always told me how she, I think it was in the 20s or 30s at school, they had a Ausdruckstanzklasse, and they were allowed to create their own choreographies, and how this opened her mind, and she always wanted to become a dancer. And then there was Second World War, and she became a mother and a musician in church, like a church musician, but she was always having this affiliation for dance, and I see you in her and her in you, and it's very beautiful to, I'm very thankful to being in your presence. And with that, I pass the mic to you and maybe the last few minutes.
I'm speechless, thank you.
I would just 1 minute. I would just point out what for me is important, what I just found out like a year ago, not only language, archaic language is so much more physical, because there was a guy last year, he was Jewish, English, and he started to talk Hebrew, and I started to move but I didn't understand anything what he was saying. But it's so rich. We lost so much in language. It's the same when I was with Indian dance and they start to talk Sanskrit. It's amazing. I think we should really, try to do research there in this kind of like archaism with movement and connections also. Because like we said, in the African society, it's so much like daily life. The dance has a social meaning, and I think we should really start to research there and go back into the past and learn from the past, because, that's where we come from, though.
Anybody else? I can pass the mic, yes. Does the camera also capture our audience?
Yes, I just want to... Also, language. English is my second colonial language. My first one is Portuguese. My mother language, I don't know. Actually, I want to do a connection between what you say about ritual and then what Ricardo say about to be together, and thinking about the festival. How somehow I think the way that we think festivals, and then we think dance, and we think light, when we think everything is a colonial way, and then we start to reproduce this. So I'd love to have this space here to be together, to build kind of connection, to have time to share, and to do, quem sabe, quilombo. And what I feel is like we are just, running to, okay, now you're going to see this performance, now you're going to do this, now you're going to speak here, but I just have 50 minutes and then I need to finish, because, so it's kind of a wish and a suggestion, how we can rethink the way to do things, to empower our community and really build things together, rituals, and yes, just this.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want, maybe is some thinking, because I hear you all, and the thing was coming is language. Language. It's like we put now a language as a problematic. And when I think to myself and I hear each person, I only see and hear movement and sound to communicate. Language is dance. And I think we use that to communicate with people, that they hear us is like, I talk with your own movement. Because when you speak German, I was, for my experience for dance, each person or each human speak with movement. We can't cut it. Even the German learn about Many from Brecht, Bertolt Brecht, would say, you have to stay and talk. See, to talk. We can see the tension, what you're talking about. But sometimes when the less the body, the movement is going. I think we use, when I want to, it's like a dance, how you said, when we come into community, if I want to talk with you, sometimes for question and response, I have to move as hip-hop dancer, but I'm not hip-hop dancer. Or I can choose to move as a traditional dancer. You can hear what it's a communication. I think each person feels to talk in English because he wants to be connect with you and you understand that, but he is dancing with you. I think we have to take the language like that, as a dance, as a movement, as a sound, not after something oppressing, what have to block our bodies. It's only what I want to say.
No, it's important. Just to point out, thank you very much. One thing that somehow we figured out with time, that's the thing that my freak mind it is. It's nice to share with all of you, because the most of the time you are talking about equality, no? Equality, to find. I think that somehow I'm just looking for equity. This makes a huge difference, just to point it up there.
So if there is not much things still to be said, I would invite you all to continue speaking to each other and maybe dreaming together, finding ways to connect. And I'm very serious about creating a big ritual outdoor, very serious about it, and I will try to pursue it. But I'm always rejected from applications, so I have no other way but to get funded by the party of Raphael. So thank you all for this wonderful session. Sorry if the weather is not so energizing. And thanks also for our technical team, for the filming and for the online streaming and everything. And see you next time in the next year with the next edition of Kuyum. And let's see what we make out of this discussion next year.
I connect you to our General Secretary so he can provide the funds and the paperwork.